Okay, so I've taken the 6 screws out now, and that will allow me to pull this out. Okay, so it just tips on its side. Out the way for now. Move the cobwebs. Okay, around in the vacuum. Up the top there we have the motor, which has, oh dear, a little adjuster down in here. Now I have taken the bottom plate off because I'm hoping it's easier than taking the top plate off, because the top plate you need to get to these little nuts and bolts along here, which is a bit tricky. So I'm going to get the light and get in there now with the light and make that adjustment. Okay, so the motor hasn't come loose again, so I'm having a look up here, and we do need to order some new belts for this lathe. But what it is, when that there goes over centre, the belt is still loose, and as you can see there is some rock there, and that is what is making the noise. Now what I have noticed is there's a lot of play in this, so what I'm going to do is undo that. I'm going to wind that out a little bit just to tighten the belt up. I'm going to get the sizes of the belts. That one looks like it's being replaced at some point, but it runs very deep in the motor pulley, and this one has gone hard and shiny, so I'm going to have a measure up of that. I'll order some new belts. And another job I want to do is, because the adjuster is down in there somewhere for the motor, it makes it extremely awkward to get to. You have to take all this back plate off, which is really annoying. Ideally I could do with having just this piece here removable, so I'll either see if I can fabricate a bracket to go underneath where it's just a little bolt to adjust it in a different position, or have a look, see if I can put a little access panel in here somewhere and then just screw that on to make that a little bit easier to get to in the future. But for now, just to get myself going, I'm just going to adjust that, and hopefully then we'll be back in business. So I'm going to get on with that. I will pop the cover back on just because it's got the emergency kick on it, just there, just for a bit of safety, and then we'll get that adjustment made. So I'm going to crack on with that, and we can then hopefully start doing some machining. I'm just going to loosen this off now. It doesn't feel particularly great, to be honest. I'm doing it there like that. Do not want to drop it into there, because that will take some, well, I guess get it out easy with a magnet, but yeah, just good grief. Bennett. Right, okay, that's fine. Okay, so on first inspection there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of wear on that, which is good. Might just be it's completely wrong size. But I think that essentially it's just a case of unscrewing this out now a couple of turns. Like so. Might be a little bit too much. We'll find out in a minute. Get rid of that. Okay, so I can push that back across to there somewhere. Put me bolt back in. Like so. Yeah, the bolt is way too small for the piece of metal, unfortunately, for the hole size. So that'll be another job on the to-do list at some point. But as you say, it's all for a rainy day, so it's made that quite a bit tighter. I think, to be honest, you could probably do have a bigger cam on it to actually. That is too much. Take it back out, wind it back in a turn. So I went 2.5 turns. Clearly it is a bit too much for this. So we'll just wind it back in one. We'll try again. Oops. Okay, so that goes quite a long way over centre. I mean, personally, I prefer it to be about there myself. It's got. No, I can run it there. As long as it doesn't pop off, we'll be good. Right, let's slacken that. So I don't actually know what that stops on, to be honest. I need to look into that because it's yeah, it does definitely stop somewhere, but like I say, I need to go and have a look and see what he does. What stops it coming back? But at the moment I can get an Allen key and rotate that around slightly, which will be good because it will give me that extra little bit to get the belts over, so it's not too bad, is it? Go the right way, Lisa. Probably would have been better with a socket, but hey ho, so you know, we can see. You can't quite see from there, but I can from here. Yeah, so we can see there where the belt's been getting shined up. Clearly it's not ideal. It's been stuck around that pulley when the lathe got stuck at some point because the belt's been loose. And yeah, it's just shining the belt up, which is, it's not great. We're going to get a new belt so that it comes, because it's actually, you can see it's right down in the bottom of that V, which is not ideal at all. So we'll have a measure up and get a new belt. This drive motor belt does have sizes on it, so we know off the coding off of this it's a B profile for the belt. I'm going to measure it and make sure it has got the right belt, so it doesn't need to go to a bigger width to make sure it grabs better, which we might have to do yet. So that's something that we need to have a look at anyway. Right, so today we are going to be measuring up for a new belt for the lathe. Because this one's pretty easy to change, that's been changed previously, but I'm going to change that anyway. But for this one, you have to take this main drive spindle out, which is quite a bit of work. So what I'm doing at the moment is I am going to measure up to see what the shortest belt I can get in there is. So what I have just done is, I've noticed there was a bit of play in this lever to the cam here, so I've taken the bolt out and I've pulled the lever out a little bit and put a little bit of oil on that just for good maintenance. And while the bolt was out, what I've done is I filed the end of it to a little bit of a taper so that it actually sits in the indent spring, in the indent in the shaft. To measure up for the new belt, what I have done now is undo the bolt from here to here, which I have done so that I can actually, just bear with me a minute, so I can actually get the shortest working length possible. So pop that on there, let's see what I'm doing. Oops, there we go. Okay, so I need to shorten that linkage till it lines up with that hole there in the run position. So basically it is just a case of screwing it in and then checking it. They're going to check against the hole. As we can see, it's massively too long, so that tells me this belt has really stretched. I put a little bit of oil on the thread and it is a little bit tight still. I'm guessing that's because it hasn't been wound in for a long time. So it's there now, and that is still miles too long for my liking, so I'm going to unscrew it off a little bit again and put a little bit more oil on it, and hopefully it will ease off and get a little bit easier. It might be that it's actually bottoming out, but I'm not too sure if that's the case or not. So one of the problems, because the bolt here, because that bolt there was loose, it was allowing this to go over centre and then come back. When that comes back, it actually allows the belt for the drive motor to go slack, and that was allowing the motor to flap backwards and forwards and give a knock. So hopefully now with that in the correct position, and get my aim right on this. So with that in the correct position now for when it goes over centre, that should, in theory, allow me to tighten up the drive belt tension from the motor to the idler to keep it tight, so it will get rid of that knocking that's going on. Once the knocking and the vibration's gone, hopefully then that will actually let me have a better quality of cut, because it won't have all that judder going through the machine. Getting pretty tight there now. Still going ever so slightly, so I'll try and get as much as I can on it. Just going to grab the mould grips just to see if it'll go just a little bit more, then I can get the measurement that I need then. Not sure if it will go or not, but I'm going to give it a try. Yeah, it's still going, so we'll carefully keep winding it in. Whoops. Oh dear. Wear my gloves because it is absolutely bitterly cold today. I'm not quite sure how cold it is, but it is not hot. So, right, that is that now. That is as short as that will physically go. I don't want to put any more pressure on that now. So what I'm going to do now is push this away so I can then get, whoops, so I can then get this bolt back in. Now this bolt is a little bit loose for the eye, looser than what I'd like, but at the moment there's not a lot I can really do about that. At some point it will either need a new bolt or it will need the eye and the turnbuckle mechanism changing. Now, let's just take them out. So with the lever fully towards me, there's plenty of slack in the belt to allow it to go onto whichever pulley I want it to run on. Obviously it needs to be in line to correspond, but when I push it now over centre to the drive position, we can see how much deflection there is there. So there's an awful little stretch in that belt. So what I'm going to do now is get a piece of string or thin plastic just to go around the bottom of the pulleys and measure the smallest distance in the run position. If I do it in that position, then I can't actually change the belt to a different speed, so I have to have it in the run position when I take the initial measurement. So to measure the length of the belt, I've got some like sisal twine string. Now it's really good because it does not stretch at all. So what I'm going to do to make my life really easy is I'm actually going to tape it to the belt. Now what this is going to do is it's going to let me pull the string around both of the pulleys, so I can now just feed that around like so, and then take the tape off. And now what I need to do is have it into, this is where it all goes a bit wrong. Oh, there we go. So what I need to do is have it into the bottom of the pulleys like that, you see, which is the inside measurement for the belt. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it tight like so, and what I have got is a black marker pen. Now I'm just going to mark the two pieces, and then that will give me my length of the belt I can get. So I'm going to pull that back out now, lay this on the floor. So what I will do, just to keep a little bit of tension on it, is put it in the end of the more grips. Make sure they're nice and snug. And it has, okay, so we've got some grease on it, which we don't need, but we have the mark here. So hopefully you can see okay. What I will now do is I have my mark down here, so I'm just going to mark that again so we can see all the way around easy, and there won't be any doubt. It's my mark there, a grease mark here, and then we'll do the same with this. It's not a critical measurement, it doesn't have to be to the millimetre, but the better I can get it to fit, the more adjustment I will get. So I'll just put my foot on the end of this. Oops. I'll try to. I'll put it tight by pulling the mole grips. And I'll simply place the tape measure between the two. And that is coming back with a measurement of 790 millimetres or 31 inches. At the moment it's got a B32 on it, but it's a 17 by 800. As we can see there, it's a 17 by 800. Now a 32 inch does not correspond to 800, it corresponds to 813. I can find a B32 belt or a B31 and a half, so I'm going to go with a B31 and a half and a B31 for this one. So that will allow me then to have the belts ready so that when I pull this spindle out, I can actually get the new belt in ready. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go away and get them ordered, so they should be here by the start of next week. And I'm just going to go and readjust this now to tighten the belt, just so I can use the lathe again for the rest of this week.